Hello again everybody and welcome back to Fugit's Blitz with me, Fugit. Hello, yeah, okay, my ugly mug is not on this video, but hey, doesn't matter. So we're going to be talking about this tank. It's the new TL-7-120, a Tier 9 American Heavy. And we're going to look into it in a deep dive and we're going to give you some hints and tips on how to play the little beastie. So let's jump into the garage and have a closer look at this one. This I'm sporting at the moment with the Arachnid Legendary Camo. As you can see, it's going all this dino look, but this one is not a dino camo per se. The tank itself is sort of a mid to rear turreted design, which can present its own set of problems, which we will look at when we deep dive into this one. Personally, I think it's a funky looking tank, camo notwithstanding. I'm not a big fan of the dino camo, but I know a lot of people out there are. But the tank itself looks pretty nice. It's pretty squat and it's pretty funky, especially for a heavy. Would I venture as far to say it looks sexy? Maybe. So let's have a look at the overall stats of this thing. Well, it's got 2,000 hit points, which for a Tier 9 heavy is just above average. It dishes out 400 high-end alpha on its standard ammunition, which again is around the average. But its rate of fire is pretty low, 4.6 rounds a minute. I mean, that is very, very low for a Tier 9 heavy. It's one of the lowest. Penetration's pretty cool though, 261 millimeters, and its armor at an average of 136.9 millimeters. Speed, not too shabby, just above average for a Tier 9 heavy at 28 kilometers an hour. Jumping now to have a little bit more of an in-depth view, the survivability, we have, as we said, 2,000 hit points. The armour, while on the front of the turret it's 230, on the front of the hull is 180. We'll get into that a little bit more later. The sides, both turret and hull, are 70. The rear of the turret is 45 millimeters and the rear of the hull is 40. Chance of fire when the engine had hit, apparently, is 15%. View range, pretty low for a heavy, 224.9 meters. Camo, wow, hardly surprising. 32% stationary, 27% moving, and only 6% upon firing. So that's the survivability. What about its gun? Like we said in the overview, the rate of fire is pretty low. So the DPM, by default, is going to be pretty low too, 1,860. It has a reload time of just shy of 13 seconds. Penetration on your standard AP is 261 millimeters, on your heat, which is the premium ammunition, 363, and on your HE, 66. Average damage on your AP is going to be 400, on your heat, 340, and on your HE, 515. Aim time, taking into account that I have got different equipment loaded here, is just below 5 seconds at 4.8. Dispersion is pretty high at 0.415, and its gun, wow, gun depression is only 7 degrees, and this is where this little beastie starts to face some little problems. That's the gun stats. Let's have a look at the maneuverability. So we have a top speed of 36 kilometers going forward, 10 kilometers going backward, with an average of 28 kilometers. Power to weight ratio, not too bad, 15.9. Its weight, well, for a heavy, it's not overly fat. It's only 43.16 tons. Turn rate, both on the turret and the hull, not too shabby. Terrain crossing ability, well, it is a heavy, so it's got 87% on the road, 67% on the ground, and only 48% in the water. In other words, it's not managing to put that power onto those tracks over the terrain. But it is a heavy, so it's to be expected to an extent. Looking at the equipment I'm currently running on this thing, now you have to remember this is realistically like a test vehicle. It's not been released yet, so I'm running calibrated shells, despite the fact that its penetration isn't too bad as it is. I've then got the defense system, although it's showing something different there. I've then got the improved optics, trying to get that view range up, because I don't really need a camo net, not on this tank, let's be honest. I've then got the enhanced gun laying device, because you really do need it. 5 seconds is an awfully long time to get that aim time in. I've then got the additional 4% to the armour, and there's a reason for that, which we'll get into. I've then got the improved control, the vertical stab, the toolbox, and the consumables. So that's the equipment I'm running with at the moment. Now look, Keep saying this all the time. There is no right or wrong answer realistically to the equipment that you are running. You have got to find what you like, what is personal preference for your style of gameplay. There is no real right and wrong answer unless you stick a camo net on a mouse. That's pretty daft, and that is the wrong answer. But aside from that, it's trial and error, guys. So go out there and just experiment with what equipment suits you. Jumping into what provisions I'm using, well, at the moment, it doesn't come with any funky-dunky special consumables or provisions. So I've just got the cola to make the crew work faster. Then I've got the multi-purpose kit to make the crew faster. And then I've got more cola to make the crew faster. Because I don't think it needs the mobility side enhanced. It needs the crew to work better. That aim time at 5 seconds, as I keep saying, is a long aim time. So getting the crew to be on the top of their game is vitally important in this tank, hence the reason why I'm running those provisions. Looking now at the consumables, as I said, it doesn't come with anything special, so I've just got the adrenaline to get that reload time down in times of battle. I've got the multi-restoration restore pack, and on this one at the moment I was just experimenting with a speed boost, but it is interchangeable with another track repair because this thing can be tracked. Let's be honest, it's not like the Yo where it's got those funky dunky you can't break my tracks. This one you can break the tracks, and once you do, well, you can be in a world of pain. But again, I'm just experimenting with the speed boost just to see what it's like. Let's talk about what the bread and butter is for any tank, and that is its ability to do damage. This is its standard ammunition, it's armor piercing, and you can see there I'm running 35 of them. It has a penetration of between 237 to 261 millimeters, with damage ranging from 300 to 500. That's not too shabby, to be honest with you, especially for a heavy at tier 9. For premium ammunition, this one has heat, high explosive anti-tank, and you can see there I'm running 16 of them. It has a penetration of between 314 to 346 millimeters, with an average damage output anywhere between 255 to 425. So again, you're not really going to struggle with its premium ammunition penning those big beasts in tier 10, and it will slice through anything at tier 8. Finally, we have the HE, which the penetration is a little bit low, but then again, it's always going to be low. It's 57 millimeters to 63 millimeters. Damage, however, is pretty nice, 386 to 644. Obviously, you've got a pen to get that big high roll of 644. But I'm only running 5 of these because it's a heavy, and the chances of me getting a good HE roll on anything other than a tank without either a spore liner or showing its posterior to me, pretty low indeed. That's the stats out of the way. Let's have a look at its armor. This is the armor profile, and as you can see frontally, it looks pretty stonking. However, don't let looks deceive you, and I'll get into that more in a bit, because this one can be relatively deceiving. This is the tank facing an E75, and as you can see frontally, it looks pretty solid. However, that cupola is really easy to hit, and if you angle it incorrectly, well, most people can pen you frontally. I found that out when playing the game, and we'll look at that more when we get into those replays. So don't think this thing is solid as a beast, because it is not as solid as it really looks. For comparison, this is it facing an E100, and as you can see, it starts to become a little bit greener frontally. Now look, I'll be perfectly frank with you, this is taken from Armour Inspector, and the reason why I haven't shown you all the penetration part is because Armour Inspector may not be 100% correct. I'm just trying to show you what the tank looks like, because whilst on paper it looks like it's pretty formidable, I found that a lot of tanks are able to pen you quite easily, although you do get a fair few bounces. But the armor profile on this one is not as solid as it looks. Believe that. Anyway, that's the boring stuff out of the way. Let's find out what this tank is actually like to play, and are there any hints or tips that we can give you to improve your overall gameplay, because this one will be coming out very soon, and when it does, it may be a tank you want in your garage because it's one of those tier 9 rarities, a premium collector. Let's jump into these replays. Here we are on Oasis Palms, and as you can see, we're going to where the ACAT would normally be, and there's an IS-8 and there's an AMX over there, so we're going to sort of team up with this Yo and see if we can give them a hard time. Now, a couple of things you need to know about this tank. One, that cupola is huge, and it's really easy to pen, and the IS-8 just worked that one out himself. That really means you've got to sort of nurture this tank. We've got good penetration into the AMX, not going to lie, but we have a long reload and we have a serious lack of gun depression. This is not a frontliner, not really. You can at a push, and I'll show you that push in another replay, but this one is really much a second line defense tank. Okay, you can't ridgeline it, not with only 7 degrees of gun depression, and with its very hefty aim time and hugely massive cupola. You have got to be incredibly careful with this one. Its mobility, well, it's a heavy, so it's going to be slightly slow, but the aim time, as you can see, is pretty long also. So it's not one of those tanks that you can buzz around the battlefield. It's going to be a nice addition to tier 9, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be one of those tanks that people are going to be dieharding to sort of get out there in, because it's a bit, think like the Camp 70 type tank, okay, the German premium in tier 9. This is a similar type of tank, if I'm being honest with you. It's not too dissimilar, okay. It's not got the same sleek lines as that Camp 70, but it's got the same amount of lengthy load time. It's got the same sort of dodgy gun depression. It's got the same kind of mobility, and these factors kick in. So it's not going to be the easiest tank to play, but if you can get used to this tank, boy, you're going to have fun with it. I mean, I've had fun with it, to be honest with you. I mean, okay, I only did 1800 damage that game. I took a kill. I didn't bounce anything. Everybody managed to pen me, but I'm pretty happy with that game. Now, you have to appreciate this is under a test, and I'm doing it on my CC account because I don't have it on my main account. And because it's like a test account, a test tank, other people are rolling out there and doing well. Plus, it does get you some decent credits, not gonna lie. And, you know, contrary to popular belief, we were the 3rd best damage there. But let's show you a better replay. Here we are on Fort Despair, and yes, we are up tiered. So we're going to be facing tier 9s in tier 8s. And I'm going to try and kind of play this tank as a second line defense. Now, the Waffle Tractor there is very aggressive. And when we say front line, the Waffle Tractor is front lining and I am second line. Now, I'm sort of in a second line, front line defense position. Look at this mecha. He comes around the corner, easy pen. Now, the Waffle Tractor is just going to get rushed by both the object and the mecha. It's as simple as that. And I've got one hell of a load time, so there's not much I can do to save his sorry backside in this scenario. They are not focusing me. They want the Waffle Tractor out the way, and I don't blame them. I would have done the same thing. Down goes the object. Now we're facing off against the mecha. He's going to pen me. Despite the fact that frontally this thing is meant to be rock solid, he pens my bottom plate quite easily. And this is the problem with this tank. I find the armor profile a little bit suspect. It's not as massive as it looks on paper. And again, I'm bringing back to that turret. That turret with that cupola really does make this tank quite vulnerable to those penetrating shots. And this aim time, well, the aim time is okay, but the load time, as you can see there, we can't even outload an ISU for Pete's sake. The mobility is not too bad for a super heavy. I'm now going to push around, take out the 59 pattern, which is going to be quite nice. So we'll at least get something for our troubles. We're up to 1,966. Going to carry on pushing around to the Borsig. And the Borsig, well, he's in a position that it's easy to sort of farm him a little bit. I'm worried he's going to smack me, but I've got all my hit points, so it's not a big deal. Load the HE, put in a big roll of 500, but again, he manages to get that penetrating shot. And I found this, it's very difficult to bounce anything in this tank. 2,500 is that we dished out now. We're not setting the world on fire, but what I'm trying to show you is that this tank is pretty much like, as I said, that Camp 70. You can't really stick it too much on the front line. You've got to play it like an ambush tank. It's one of those peek and boom type tanks. Second line defense. Penetration is pretty nice, although we fluffed this shot, I think, on the T95. However, we still do 2.8k. We've taken a kill. We had a pretty nice time in the tank. Is this a tank that you want in your garage? Well, I don't know how it's coming. I don't know if it's going to be for gold. I don't know if it's going to be in crates. I don't know if it's going to be for real money, cash. I have no clue at this moment in time. All I can say is this. For a tier 9 heavy, it's not too shabby. It's not too bad. And I would be tempted to look at this one, to be honest with you, mainly because I like the things like the Camp 70 in any event. Well, that's my look at the soon-to-be-released new American Tier 9 Heavy, the TL-7-120. It's an interesting tank, and by the time this video is released, the tank will be in the store. As I said, I don't know at this stage how it's coming. It could be in crates, it could be for cash, it could be for gold. I don't know. What I do know is this. It's an interesting addition to Tier 9. Is it going to be one of those go-to tanks? I don't know. All I do know is that I'm going to be looking at this one with interest. It's not an easy tank to play, but once you get used to it, I can see people having a lot of fun with this one. Again, I keep defaulting back to think along the lines of the Camp 70. Anyway, I've been Fujit. That has been the TL-7-120. And I'd love to know your views and your comments on this one. So write them down below. That's what YouTube comments are all about. And until the next time, guys, keep your eyes open for this one. Stay safe out there. Have fun on the battlefield and happy tanking. Because at the end of the day, that really is what it's all about. Having fun and being happy.